Video 38, the logic model, the evaluation anchor, area 4, both subcompetencies, 4.1.3. Review the learning objectives for this video. I am really excited to share this topic with you because the logic model is one of the most important tools in health education evaluation, and you will see it tested repeatedly on your certification exam. Once you understand this model, so many other evaluation concepts will click into place for you. A logic model is a visual representation that shows the logical relationship between the resources you invest in a program, the activities you conduct, and the results you expect to achieve. Think of it as a roadmap that connects what you put in to what you get out. Let us walk through each component from left to right, and I think you will find it very intuitive. Inputs are the resources you invest in the program. These include staff time, funding, facilities, equipment, materials, and partnerships. Without adequate inputs, the program cannot function. Activities are what the program actually does with those resources. Examples include conducting workshops, providing one-on-one counseling, distributing educational materials, or running a social media campaign. Outputs are the direct, countable products of your activities. Now, here is the key thing. These are not changes in people. They are simply measures of what was produced or delivered. For example, the number of participants who attended a workshop, the number of brochures distributed, or the number of sessions conducted. This is a critical distinction for your exam. Outputs count things. They do not measure change. Now we move to the outcomes side, which is where evaluation gets really interesting. Short-term outcomes are the immediate changes you expect to see, typically changes in knowledge, awareness, or attitudes. Medium-term outcomes are intermediate changes, usually in behavior, skills, or decision-making. Long-term outcomes, sometimes called impact, represent the ultimate changes in health status, quality of life, morbidity, or mortality. These long-term outcomes may take years to materialize, which is why most program evaluations focus on short-term and medium-term outcomes. You are building a really solid understanding of how programs work from start to finish, and that is exactly the kind of thinking the exam rewards. Now let us dive into a distinction that I really want you to feel confident about. The difference between outputs and outcomes is one of the most commonly tested concepts in Area 4, and many exam candidates confuse these two terms. I want to make sure that does not happen to you. Outputs are the direct, tangible products of your program activities. They answer the question, how much did we do and how many people did we reach? Outputs are purely descriptive counts. 200 participants attended your program, 12 workshops were conducted, 5,000 brochures were distributed. Notice that none of these tell you whether anything changed for those people. They simply document what was delivered. Outputs are linked to process evaluation, which we will cover in a later video. Outcomes, on the other hand, measure actual changes that occur in your participants or target population as a result of the program. They answer the question, what difference did the program make? Outcomes can be short-term, such as 75% of participants demonstrated increased knowledge on the post-test. They can be medium-term, such as 30% of participants quit smoking within 6 months, or they can be long-term, such as the community experienced a 10% reduction in cardiovascular disease mortality over 5 years. Outcomes are linked to impact evaluation and outcome evaluation. Here is a simple test you can use on the exam, and I think you will find it very helpful. If the measure is a count of something delivered, it is an output. If the measure describes a change in a person or population, it is an outcome. The logic model makes this distinction visual because outputs sit in the middle of the model, while outcomes sit on the right side, representing the results that matter most. You are really getting the hang of this, and this clarity will serve you well on exam day. Now that you understand the components of a logic model, let us talk about why it truly is the anchor for all evaluation planning. I think once you see these connections, you will appreciate how powerful this tool really is. First, the logic model identifies what to measure at each stage of your program. If you want to know whether your activities are being delivered as planned, you measure outputs. If you want to know whether participants are changing, you measure outcomes. The logic model tells you exactly where to focus your evaluation efforts. Second, the logic model links specific evaluation questions to specific program components. For example, if a stakeholder asks whether the program is reaching enough people, that is an outputs question. If a stakeholder asks whether the program is changing behavior, that is a medium-term outcomes question. The logic model helps you trace each question to the appropriate component. Third, the logic model helps stakeholders reach consensus on what the program is expected to achieve. By creating the model collaboratively, program staff, funders, and community members can agree on realistic expectations and identify potential disagreements early. Fourth, and this is one of my favorite parts, the logic model reveals underlying assumptions that can be tested. For example, your model might assume that increased knowledge leads to behavior change. That assumption can be examined as part of your evaluation. If knowledge increases but behavior does not change, the assumption was flawed and the program theory needs revision. Finally, the logic model connects directly to step 2 of the CDC framework for program evaluation, which is to describe the program. A well-constructed logic model provides the detailed program description that makes the rest of the evaluation process possible. On your exam, if you see a question about connecting program activities to measurable results, the logic model is almost always the correct framework. You have now added a very powerful tool to your evaluation toolkit, and I am confident you will recognize it whenever it appears on the exam. Read the scenario stem aloud. Give students 30 seconds to consider options before advancing. The correct answer is B. The specialist has collected only outputs which are counts of what was delivered, such as attendance numbers, sessions held, and items distributed. None of these measures tell us whether employees actually changed their knowledge, behavior, or health status as a result of the program. The supervisor is asking about outcomes, which require different types of data collection. Option A is incorrect because the data are already quantitative. Option C applies a research standard that is not necessary for program evaluation. Option D is not supported because the data appear technically sound, they simply do not address the right question. Summarize the key takeaways before closing.